Let's talk about moving into new houses. It's imperative that we engage in this conversation, as it makes sense. We are all familiar with the difficulties we may face when moving into a new place. Like, for example, having to wake up early so they can take your bed and transfer it to the new house. At least, that's one of the difficulties I face personally. But what about guests? And I'm not just talking about your regular everyday annoying guest. No, the guests who would stay with you for the rest of your life, or for as long as you stay in that house. The ghost, the most unwelcome guest of all time. That's why we have Rose in the next video. Or should I say, the husband of Rose, the man, the myth. He was once sitting alone in the house. His wife was somewhere outside, so he remembered the activity that had been occurring as of late. Since they moved in, they have speculated that they must have heard some strange sounds like knockings on the walls. So, as he was sitting alone, he heard some sounds coming from the kitchen. He decided to investigate and man up. Little did he know he was about to scurry away once he encountered the paranormal. He found the cups were swinging on their own and didn't stop, followed by the cabinet opening on its own, which was the moment where he found himself running. Even when he returned, the activity didn't stop.
I heard something in the kitchen again. Yeah. Looks like the cup ghost is out and about again. What is it with these freaking cups? What? Oh, did you see that?
At 662-671-8688 for more information. Thanks everybody for helping our local kids.
There's power in caring, power in community. That's the
This is getting ridiculous.
Citizens National Bank. Member FDIC.
Man, we're gonna have to do something about this now.
This video is old, like a year old, and I didn't find anything new related to the ghost haunting on their account, so I assume either they moved out again, or they found some priest who was actually useful for their case. Encountering ghosts in abandoned places is very common, but encountering child ghosts, or jinn in the shape of a child, is something that's also common. Obviously, I wasn't going to say it was uncommon, since I have already seen a lot of videos where people encounter ghosts or jinns of a child. Now, that brings me to our next guy, who just happened to be in the right place in the right time. As he was investigating some anonymous abandoned place, he went upstairs as part of his journey to reveal the truth for the people watching, who might have been halfway asleep while watching the full version of the investigation. So, before he could even get inside one of the rooms up there, his ghost detecting device signaled that there might be a sinister presence nearby, which happened to be true. Yeah, these devices actually do get the job done sometimes, like 10% of the time. As that thing gave the signal, the door right in front of the investigator opened by itself. I couldn't really tell what was written on the device's screen the man was holding, but I suspect it said "Open Sesame." Regardless, that same door moved on its own a second time. But what was more intriguing was the reaction of the investigator, as he claimed he saw some sort of a shadow figure but couldn't find any trace of him. All until he went to the bathroom. He looked into the mirror, trying to make some sort of communication with whatever ghost was there, and from the corner of the mirror, a ghostly apparition was spotted, which caused the man to freak out.
¿Dónde estás? Sí, yo mismo, yo soy. Ábreme la puerta. ¿Por qué no me abres la puerta? No te pases. ¡Oh! ¡No mames! Vi algo, ¿eh? Juro que vi algo. Vi algo que se movió. Vi algo como si estuviera algo aquí. Vi clarito. Sí, había algo aquí. Yo lo vi clarito, había algo aquí. Hola, ¿quién vive? Hola. ¡Ah, la bestia! ¿Se siente? ¿Estás en este lugar? No mames.
I don't know if this so-called ghost was actually a child or not, but based on his height and the size of his head, if that was even his head, he might be. When it comes to camping, the last site you want to go to is the forest. Then, where could you camp if you should not go to the forest? Well, maybe the mountains would be a better idea. Seriously though, camping in a campsite where rumors of hauntings are being spread around by previous visitors and locals living nearby sounds like a bad idea. That isn't even enough to classify such a terrible choice of a camping site. It's a horrible idea. That's why the team of Kurashiro has decided to camp in this location, a location only investigators would go to. There have been rumors about it of water flowing on its own from the faucets, unexplained noises and such. But the most terrifying information they had to take note of, which might have been the ultimate reason why the place became haunted and almost vacated, is the person who took his own life inside the camp house, or maybe in the cottage. As they arrived, one of them kept freaking out as there were noises in the background constantly. He was the weakest one in the group, but I can't blame him. The night only got creepier once they installed their cameras in different sections of the place where you can hear the sounds much clearer, noises like someone messing around. And to prove that these noises weren't caused by humans, the door right in front of the camera opened by itself. Well, up until here, things are setting the stage for a creepy day they won't forget, but nothing off the top yet. The water was flowing on its own too though, even though the faucet was not on. But things got creepier as one of them, who was holding his camera, noticed a strange movement from inside the closet. Something was peeking out of that closet, and upon replaying the footage, it turned out to be a mysterious hand. If you thought the hand apparition was scary, how about some legs? Later in the investigation, unintentionally, the camera caught human legs hanging from the ceiling.
なんでこんな流れあれボスたち流したままどういうこと止めたよねなんで流れてんのうわ怖っ結構広いな結構広いぞこれなに誰かいる誰かいますか失礼しますここベッドかなんでなったどっかになった今誰かいる待って上あったの上あるのか今めっちゃ上から 怖い怖い怖い怖い。あ、カメラも。どうしよう。これ。おー、待って、待ってか。痛い、痛い。なんで、痛い、落ちた。痛い。なんで水また流れてんの？止めたよね。こんなにがっつり閉めたよ、さっき。
え？何の音だこれ？パチパチ。何？ちょっと待って。いや、それはないだろう。何？今の。ちょっと待って。やばいわ、マジで。一旦戻ります。何？ちょっと。
マジかよ。
白、びっくりした。トイレ買ってないと。あれ、みんな寝てるよ。あ、ちょっと開いただけ。開いた、ぐーって開いた。びっくりした。なんか落ちてきた。ちょっと待って。今上からも降ってきたよ、なんか。クレーンさん起きちゃうよ。ごめんなさい。
ごちゃごちゃドアノブを動かされた感じもあったんですけど。ちょっと待って。誰もいないですね。何なんだろう。 ーンってこれなんか今トイレの方から
The legs hanging to me was the ultimate indicator that whoever said there was a person who took his own life here was correct. The hand was not as creepy because it was less apparent. While watching the next video, I was hyped at first based on the highlights they had at the beginning, knowing that I'm set to watch one heck of a creepy experience with ghosts. But as time passed, I realized these folks were not setting up anything. That was the beginning of the video. There were no highlights. Right from the get-go, they were deeply involved with the ghosts. As one of them, let's call him Jack, he was the one who felt all the pain. Before they entered the room that was right in front of them and was the only room around, Jack's arm was caught from behind the door. It wasn't like his arm got stuck or as if the door slammed on it. The door was too vintage. It's one slam away from collapsing. But there seems to have been some force grabbing Jack by his arm hard. After his arm was released, he had to take a breath before even getting inside that room. And so the door moved on its own. It was almost a sign from the ghost telling them to get in. Little did they know what was about to happen to them. Jack wasn't ready to get possessed that night, but he had a roller coaster awaiting him in there. As they entered the room, they found a jar covered with a sheet of cloth, and wrapped around it was a string with peppers and a cursed apple attached to it. Let me explain why that apple was cursed and how I found out. I'm not that smart, but even a jerk would have been able to tell. That apple was covered with black magic and an evil type of sorcery to use against others. Despite that, there were other signs hinting that these two had to evade before things got scarier and more serious. Objects were thrown at them out of nowhere, while there were two sticks in that room forming the X sign. The two sticks were also snapped out of their place somehow. Now when it comes to Jack, that man never learns. He was attacked by these ghosts multiple times, but he resisted nonetheless, until he decided to touch that apple where he suffered the most. Despite being halfway possessed by these ghosts, he kept touching the apple and even tried to burn it at some point, thinking he would break the magic seal by doing so.
क्या हो गया यार क्या चीज थी यार पता नहीं की चीज है बाल भी वहां से उतर गए सारे क्या हुआ ये क्या लगा क्या हुई है नहीं तो ये वाला दरवाजा इसके पीछे कुछ है खुद आगे ना जाना यार पाँव से यहाँ तक खोल दो मैं अंदर से दिखाऊं उसको पाँव मार के खोलना क्या है अंदर गले में यार साइड से कर रहा हूँ ये दिखाइएगा ध्यान से इसको भी खोल दे अंदर कोई चीज है अंदर कोई ना अजीब सी कोई चीज रखी हुई है ये क्या हो गया बच गया यार सर पे कर सकते मैं इधर करना मिर्चे और पता नहीं क्या
यार है वो नहीं ये पिक्चर जिसके ऊपर है वो तो देखे वो क्या है
नहीं नजर आ रहा कुछ सुइयां नजर आ रही है बस गोल सी चीज है कुछ
यार कोई है सही पीछे ना कोई बड़ी चीज है उसके ऊपर सुइयां लगाई गई हैं
यार सभी मेरे सामने ये वहां से उड़ती हुई आई है
उस बंदे ने उसी हिसाब से जो है वो किया है जादू, ताकि जो है ना कि बंदा अंदर आ ना सके। ओए ओए ओए,
ये क्या हुआ
है?
ये क्या हुआ?
पता नहीं, एकदम से मेरा
ये दोनों स्टिक्स आपकी तरफ आई हैं।
वहां पर आकर लगी है
यार अंदर यार सांस घुट रहा
है तो वैसे कुछ नहीं,
यार। ये वही वाली जो है ना स्टिक यहाँ पे जो पड़ी है, ये उड़ती हुई आपकी तरफ।
हर बार ही हुआ था, बाकी और कुछ नहीं हुआ। 3 छोटी मोटी टोटल
ये
खैर है
यार, ये दूसरी भी और बिल्कुल उसी
की है। ट्रंक है, इसके अंदर भी है कुछ चांद भाई,
मटके के अंदर।
हाँ
हो सकता है जैसे वो किया हो।
अल्लाह
भाई साहब,
यार चांद भाई आप ना
सर
ध्यान
बचाना
रखना है,
यार।
मेरे ऊपर भी आपने जो है ना इधर उधर फोकस रखना है कि कोई चीज लगे ना,
सर भाई वो ना
क्योंकि मेरा अभी ना पीछे भी है। शॉपर है कोई, शॉपर में डाल है।
ओए सब भाई यार, उससे हाथ हटा दे। या अल्लाह खैर। डोर टूट गई है यार उसकी। डोर टूटी है तो
ओए 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 अल्लाह हाथों में आ गया।
इसको मैं कहता सब भाई जला दे।
बाहर ले जाते हैं इसे। ओए अल्लाह ओए, किधर गई?
ये इधर पड़ा
है,
ये रहा।
या लाइटर किधर है?
लाइटर में
है, लाइटर आपके पास?
ये ले
इधर ही है।
हाँ
इधर करना यार, जली नहीं है और जल्दी आना।
इसको ना अलग करो यार उससे किस तरह, फिर जरा आसानी हो जाएगी।
मेरा हाथ खींची। ओए आप, ओए
जल गई।
जल रही है। करना दिखाना।
It felt almost like he was being electrocuted. Like, how am I even supposed to believe that the apple was actually used for black magic? Because when you want to use it against someone, you need a photo of that person, not some elementary school level drawing. I don't remember if I have shared the next video on my channel before or not, though I do remember seeing it before, but I don't completely recall featuring it. Some parts seem new to me, which might be that I have stumbled upon it in the past but didn't include it in one of my videos. Despite my Alzheimer's, let's see what we have here. When you tell yourself you're not scared of whatever is happening around you, you need to live up to your word. But if you are saying that to yourself without anyone around noticing, if you are completely alone, it doesn't matter if you could live up to the word or not. No one is looking. But imagine being completely alone in the factory where you work. You say you're not scared, but you record it. That's the story of Jonathan, the man who was working alone in a factory at night when he heard some strange noise. So he began recording while telling others about what he had experienced. After he turned the lights on, he found the ladder on the floor, which was weird as it was set perfectly that it was impossible to fall on its own. There had to have been someone or some force to have moved it, such as ghosts. But Jonathan wasn't so much of a believer at first until the next footage, where he had to sit in the front line and experience the whole paranormal activity in 4D and 4K. In other words, he was standing there watching objects moving on their own, like a bottle that flipped from its place aggressively. He was saying he wasn't scared and went down there, but based on the last moments of the footage, my whole screen was shaking out of his fear.
¿Quién anda ahí? Puta la escalera. Escalera caída. Aquí no hay nadie. ¿Quién anda ahí? Todo está acá. No hay nadie. Esto está raro. Muy raro. Puta abajo. ¿Quién era ahí? No te tengo miedo. Uy, jue... No te tengo miedo. Las cosas que se cayeron. La loción. Sea lo que sea, no te tengo miedo. Para nada te tengo miedo.
I'm not mocking the man at all, no, but I was just pointing out that he was indeed really freaked out. Plus, I wouldn't last a second if I had to work there. Even if the place wasn't haunted, I wouldn't be fit to be a night guard in a factory unless someone else was working with me. Talking about teamwork, you have to subscribe and watch the next video on screen. That's called Teamwork 2.